right. Can you hear me?
Indeed, I can. Interesting.
All right, cool. I'm just making sure. It might take 10 minutes to get in here.
I really appreciate the tag name you gave yourself there, because it happens to coincide with exactly what I mentioned. That is the faction that I have a few notes on, actually.
Yeah,
Hi, buddy.
Yep, Frank Corrigan, man. Who? Me, Frank Corrigan. That's who. United States Secret Service. You aren't going anywhere from here, Muty. Time to die. Man, what a ending of Fallout 2.
You know, I may not have ever played through the game myself, but I've watched a lot of gameplay videos with it.
I played through the whole game. I had the whole playthrough on YouTube.
See, I'll have to watch that at some point to get your particular take on it.
Honestly, man, it doesn't take an amazing computer to play it. And it's like relatively cheap.
I probably could. Hell, I could probably even run it on this thing. And it's not exactly the most powerful laptop in the world.
You got Steam?
I think I still have a Steam account, but I don't use it.
Try to get on it and let me know what the name is. And I might send something your way.
Oh, yeah, and if I do manage to get signed back into it to use it, I will let you know. What's up, buddy? Okay, I will get it going again. I'll be right back. My little buddy here's program apparently automatically paused for some reason, so I'll be right back.
All right.
The joys of technology.
Indeed. All right. Let's see here. We got nobody watching so far just yet, but we will, hopefully.
It's also part of what's nice about now having our kitchen table kind of angled at this direction is now if I have to nip off upstairs or downstairs or something, you can actually see me on camera returning.
Right. So, Fallout lore. Where do we want to get started in this whole endeavor?
Well, the first thing I would like to briefly touch upon is to say to anyone who is watching now or anyone who will drop in later on, greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a co-hosted show between yours truly, ByronOfSidius, and the gentleman who's doing all the technical work and running the back end like a fucking hero, our buddy Cortex, aka Frank Corrigan, United States Secret Service.
Yep.
And if
United
you are
States Secret Service.
And if you are a fan of the Fallout franchise, you understand that reference. If you're not a fan or a longtime student of the franchise, just do a quick Google search and you will find a wealth of information, most of it pertaining to what an absolute monster the man was.
Yeah, there's a big war going on between the OG fans of the Timothy Kane Fallout 1 and 2 fans, and then you got the Fallout 4 and 76 fans. And now the show fans who aren't in depth with all the lore from way back when, like, with all the other games, they're not like familiar. It's a whole kind of shit show.
Is it somewhat similar to the original split between the original trilogy and prequel trilogy fans in Star Wars before Disney and all their nonsense? Because I remember back in the day when I first saw The Phantom Menace, my initial takeaway from that film was, oh my God, what were they thinking?
My God, especially with Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, especially with that fucking CGI Muppet. They basically dragged their nutsack across my childhood's face and said, get a whiff of that.
Every other word you want to cry.
Yet, here I am now, ever since Disney took it over, looking back at the prequel trilogy going, maybe that wasn't that fucking bad, man.
Yeah, I actually did a rewatch of all the films again. But I stopped, like, what was it? Like, the first, like, the prequel trilogy, then the actual trilogy. That's where I stopped. Like, you had the original trilogy, but then the prequel came out after.
Right.
That's where I stopped. I won't go and watch Disney's films.
And you probably saved yourself an absolute fuck ton of headache by going that route. You see, I also had one minor advantage recently in that if I still want to enjoy Star Wars, I've got all of these Star Wars books to read, and I haven't only read a few of them yet. So I can still at least cling to some of the expanded universe. But anyway, that's a whole other ticket. But you'll find I often find
about Fallout.
Right. I often find this happens with a large scale, long running, long standing, or vastly expansive intellectual properties and franchises, is that when you have different entities or authors or programmers, directors, filmmakers take over a franchise and take it in either a new direction, or they stay along the same course direction, but they have a different narrative style, you can oftentimes see this kind of fracturing in the fan base. And it is unfortunate that happens.
Here's what I am going to say. The new Fallout show, which is 8 episodes long, I did watch all of it. I actually enjoyed it. But from a Fallout 1 and 2 standpoint, playing the original games all the way up to New Vegas, which I still need to finish my New Vegas playthrough. But my whole what I'm trying to get at here, there are elements of Fallout 1 and 2 in the show.
Okay.
So, because I had noticed something, like, being a Fallout 1 and 2 fan, like the different weapons you utilize in the games, from Fallout 1 to Fallout 4, you notice certain things like guns and stuff. Like them bringing back the old classic Colt 10mm pistol. It was like a big blue revolver. And then you had the Fallout 4 10mm pistol show up. I don't know how that really makes sense, but they had both versions of the 10mm.
There is actually potentially an explanation for that in some of the background lore that I was digging into the last couple of days. We may actually find ourselves thankful to the Duraframe Technologies Corporation for that kind of shift. If they bring them into the lore of the show, could serve as an explanation.
I thought it was maybe like a West Coast thing because the show is set in California, which is where Fallout 1 and 2 was initially set in. So,
and then you have the whole NCR, the New California Republic. It's, kind of a big reason why that whole instantiation of government or New World government makes sense for things like Fallout New Vegas, or even I don't remember if they were mentioned at all in Fallout 3.
No,
but
they weren't.
I would imagine it's a big reason why they are such a presence in New Vegas, which should tell you something about the development team and the writers over at Obsidian, in that they only had 18 months to crank out this game. And they not only cranked out an enormous game with a ton of factions and just a hellacious amount of voice work
and respect the lore,
programming, but an absolute understanding and appreciation of the lore and the world building that had already been established before them, which I find absolutely commendable, just laudable, that you have such crunch time to get this done and you still managed to get it done. True, it's buggy as shit. Anybody who's blown up a death claw in the Mojave Wasteland,
my favorite pastime,
with a grenade launcher, you know what can happen. Suddenly the death claw is spinning around like a spirograph fucking drawing in live action time at like 16 feet over the ground, and if you happen to shoot at it again, an arm goes blasting off across the screen like a missile. I don't know how that happens, but it's fascinating to watch.
All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up something on the screen, and you're going to be like, oh, okay.
Sure.
I'm going to show a couple different examples. Just like when we were talking about the Fallout 4 10mm pistol and the Fallout 1 2 10mm. The one that's referenced in Fallout 1 2 is considered the Colt 6520, which is, I'm guessing, like a different model of the gun. But I was watching the show, and I just thought, like I said, I thought this is kind of interesting, something to bring up.
Okay.
So, all right, let's see here. So, like right here on this screen that I just pulled up, he's holding the original 10mm.
Yep.
That's in the show. Okay. So when we pull up a picture of the original 10mm here, hold up. Oh, here it is. That's what the original 10mm looked like in pixel sprite form.
Yeah, it's really not a bad. It's a fairly close approximation of 1-to-1.
Yep. So as soon as I seen that, I immediately knew what it was. I'm like, wait a minute, I see what you're doing here.
Little drips and drabs, little member berries. Member?
So then there was a shot of the Fallout 4 10mm, and this is the one shot. I'm going to zoom into it.
Yeah, the one that's looks more like a semi-automatic.
Yep. It's magazine fed instead of cylinder fed. So looking back at that, here's a picture of the Fallout 4 10mm right here in game. Wait, hold up. Ah, there it is. Cool. The same gun from Fallout 4. This is the Fallout 4 variant.
If I may make an observation, or rather positive brief hypothesis, oftentimes it's mentioned throughout. I think it was New Vegas or Fallout 3 in some of the terminal diaries and logs regarding the hot war between the United States and China, that the Chinese military was taking a lot of American style weaponry and modifying it for their use. So basically taking scads of weaponry that they had confiscated or stolen and making small modifications to make the weaponry uniquely theirs. But because you have all of these fallen bodies everywhere, but the survival weaponry, right? Anchorage, Alaska, Operation Anchorage.
Yep.
There's no doubt in my mind that one of those might be a Chinese style 10 millimeter pistol versus another one would be a standard 10 millimeter pistol. You could also then have the Outcasts have their own modifications as opposed to Brotherhood of Steel making their versions of modifications. But then you've got factions like the Gunrunners out of the Mojave.
Nine.
You sure about that, buddy?
Thanks.
Yeah. But then you also have caravanners who were able to travel from one end of the wasteland to the other in these long excursions, and who knows what kind of other factions they came across who made their own adjustments or their own versions of the same sorts of weapons. In Fallout 3's expansion, The Pit, which takes place obviously in the
Pittsburgh
wastes of Pittsburgh, that's an East Coast city. You've got, East Coast versus West Coast. And it's one of the things that I know that originalists and purists will not like, might be irritated by me bringing those things up primarily. But they're the ones I most recently have played, so they're my, most recent memories. How you doing, buddy? So they're my key frame of reference. But having a differentiation between East Coast versus West Coast styles of weaponry would make plenty good sense.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as these two guns in particular, I'm pretty sure both were manufactured in America because the revolver variant is considered a Colt. So not only that, I mean, especially in Fallout 4, if I'm not mistaken, there's like plenty of different places you'll find the 10 millimeter, like in like stock, like weapon stockpiles and stuff.
Right. It's like the basic go-to one-handed weapon in the series. Hello. You're really trying to get in frame here, aren't you, buddy? Do that again. He did not have daycare today. But but that also makes me think about there were a number of organizations and outfits that when the Great War kicked off, before the bombs fell, had been trying to figure out their own unique armaments, their own positions of safety, security, how they would continue forward after the Great War.
Yep.
And that brings me to the first kind of subtopic within this kind of ramble that we're going to be doing here today. We don't really have much of a focused formulation or format to go off of, but
no,
I want to talk about the Enclave.
Oh boy.
Yes. I mean, first and foremost, I do remember when I was, younger and playing on PC, playing the first Fallout game, there was no Enclave. They didn't show up. They weren't part of that. They didn't
show up until Fallout 2.
Right. They weren't part of that game at all. But in doing some of the digging around into background notes on Interplay and Black Isle Studios, they apparently had plans for an Enclave-like organization to be in the first Fallout game. But the idea got scrapped because they weren't sure how much background they'd be able to stuff in on the organization, given that they wanted to run their narrative on a running clock dynamic, that you only had so much time to get the water
I'm fully
chip,
aware of.
to get the water chip to get back to your vault.
Yep. Which, by the way, you can take advantage of. I know, like when you play the game, you can actually wait and let your character heal up instead of using your stims, like the stim packs. You didn't have to use stim packs or med kits or nothing. I could literally go outside the map.
Hello?
And then wait like 8 hours and heal up.
Huh?
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, when you bring up the whole clock mechanic in the game, yeah, that's what I did to bypass like dying. I would get really low in health. I would go to the exit border.
Yeah.
And I would wait for a little bit, let my character heal up through time instead of like medicine. Come back in, kill everybody else. Yep.
Nice.
But I use it to my advantage.
Yeah, there you go.
But this is working within the mechanics of the game.
Right. So if I'm fighting and I was like really badly injured, that's when I would use the stim pack. That was my rule.
Okay.
And it worked very well.
So sort of use your resources only as necessary.
Indeed.
Which makes sense given the nature of the world that the game is set in. You manage your resources because otherwise you're dead in the water.
Dead in the water?
Yeah, dead in the water, buddy.
Especially the first moment when you get power armor. That's probably my favorite. As you're getting ready to go take on the Master's army with the super mutants.
Yeah. Power armor. That's gonna rope in here too.
It's like the best moment. You fix up the power armor in the Brotherhood of Steel bunker, and you're like, "Fuck yeah, I'm a walking tank. Let's do this."
Okay. And that makes me want to. I have to clarify with you because you would know better than I would. When it comes to the various types of power armor, because
there are several.
Yeah, there are several, and that much is known. Is there a particular power armor type that you have favor of?
Honestly, I was always a fan of the T-51, the old school.
The T-51 or the T-51B?
I believe it was the T-51B. It was the olive green color. It was like the very first power armor that you get.
Okay, yeah, that's just the T-51. The T-51B, if I remember correctly, is specifically the specialized power armor suit that you can get from the Brotherhood Outcasts in Mod 3 right. That has basically like infinite durability.
Yeah.
Which, and this was, again.
That was the winterized one.
Yes, I like doing a lot of deep dive into, well, what were these writers or programmers thinking? What was the design decision? Why did they do this? Or how did they come to this decision? The folks at Bethesda, when they were programming Operation Anchorage, they did it with a mind towards, this is basically just going to be kind of a quick little side mission. It's going to be heavily combat focused, and we want to offer a reward to players that is combat focused.
How do we A to C or 6?
And they wanted to give players an option to either have a weapon or something protective. But at the last minute, the lead writers on the DLC said, "Well, what if we were to offer them 2 different defensive options? Either something that will help them sneak around, because a lot of our player base seems to enjoy that play style, or something where they effectively can be a literal tank that just walks around the wasteland and never has to worry about their armor deteriorating."
Hey!
And all they had to do in order to do the winterized T-51B power armor was just mess a little bit with the coating for the standard armor, and boom, they had their special suit. The other option, though,
all they really did was give it more health or HP for durability.
as far as the other option, the one I always ended up going with, which was the Chinese stealth recon armor.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, that thing breaks the game.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally just crouch and walk right up to a Deathclaw's nuts and shoot it 1,000 times and kill it before it notices. Oh, little man down there. I don't know why I'm making Deathclaws sound like cavemen. They're giant lizards, but yeah.
Well, here's a funny thought. Fallout 2, if you go back to, I'm trying to think which vault it was. I think it was Vault 15.
Now,
either Vault 15 or Vault 13, there were talking Deathclaws. Intelligent Deathclaws.
Seriously?
Seriously. In Fallout 2.
Now, so that would make me wonder then, were they a result of like a weird mutation offshoot of the FEV?
I believe so. They were a government project.
Okay. Which, given all the shit that the government was getting up to back in the pre-war, pre-Great War days, we can yet again loop it back to the frickin' Enclave, because they are described in the source documentation that was set up by Interplay and by Black Isle Studios as a deep state collection of government officials, military officers, and higher ups, several technologists, especially in the weapons and arms industry, military contractors, and they had contacts within Vault Tech. They had some of their own people in Vault Tech. This is also the group that put together the iBots. It was designed by members of the Enclave who were engineers in the United States Air Force. The iBot program was kind of their secret sideline project that they were attempting to utilize to spy on their own allies of the United States during the early days of the Great War. And what else? They were the deep state.
Yeah, so there's a companion that you can get in Fallout 2 when you go into the vault. It was Vault 13, so I was right. It was Vault 13, the one that I went to, and that was 2241 when the game was set in. But yeah, there was a whole community between humans and Deathclaws living together.
That seems strange to me, but
yeah,
you're in an end of the world, a hellscape. I suppose there are stranger bedfellows to keep.
Well, it wasn't so much like the way we were thinking in that sense of perhaps breeding or whatnot, but it was.
But when I say bedfellows, I just mean partners in crime, people who you're gonna live with.
But you gotta think about this though. I would rather have friendly Deathclaws with me than ones that are trying to eat me.
Well, right, obviously, if you have to pick your poison, I'd rather have to deal with the one that says, "How you doing, Josh? I'm fine. I have to remind myself every day, Bobby, that you're not going to eat my face."
So yeah, there was a companion named Goris who was very intelligent, who would also join you in your quest. And this was after the Enclave had showed up to the Vault 13 and killed all the other Deathclaws besides Goris.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Enclave was viciously efficient, ruthlessly so. The cinematic opening of Fallout 2 is their opening a vault and just laying waste to everybody inside.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, that was the vault that they go in to kill everybody. They go in and kill all the Deathclaws and everybody else. And Goris is the only survivor, and he joins you on your quest.
Now, this was part of the whole kind of notion that the Enclave, by that point, stood for. They were, there's no way to avoid using the terminology. They were human supremacists.
Indeed.
Ultimately, that was not their original design. That was not the original program or game plan for what the Enclave was. What the Enclave originally was were American Democratic Republic supremacists. They were
There's
still
Boris right there.
Oh, pretty neat.
Yep.
He's even got the claw going like,
He was very intelligent. They actually had a hatchery for eggs in the vault, like not so much in the vault itself, but actually like in a cave entrance in the vault.
Death claws lay eggs?
Yes.
Okay, so not live births.
No.
See, I never really found out the ecology behind them. Like, they're fascinating. They're terrifying, but they're fascinating.
They're considered reptilian, so.
Okay, all right.
But they're like in between human and reptilian. It's weird.
Right, but it's kind of like we can't be too surprised. I mean, after all, platypi are mammals that lay eggs. So if you think God doesn't have a sense of humor, that right there. Hey, the platypus, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Gorus was definitely a cool one. He was actually brought up in the show, what was it? Yeah, Nuka Break. He comes back in the show Nuka Break after getting blown up, but, well, before he gets blown up, the show said.
Huh. See, again, those little drips and drabs, those references. I'm glad to hear that they do that, though, for like the longtime fans, folks who are already deeply invested in the lore. But as it comes to the Enclave and the vaults, the reason why I bring up earlier that they basically before the bombs dropped, they were essentially the deep state, and they had their people inserted in Vault Tech, like moles.
Yep. Believe it or not, Vault Tech and the government worked in tandem together.
Yes, they did. According to several of the original writers for Fallout 1, 2, Tactics, and the much maligned Brotherhood of Steel Xbox console exclusive game, there was a splinter faction inside of Vault Tech that was specifically aligned with the purposes of the Enclave. That splinter of membership in Vault Tech were the ones responsible for programming and assigning the psychological experiments that ended up creating many of the horrors behind the vaults and the stories that we learn about in the
Gary.
Gary was a Enclave experiment. It was Gary was an Enclave experiment designed to attempt to create perfect human soldiers to press into the ranks of the Enclave's future post-apocalyptic army, as well as to serve as worker drones to assist in the creation or complete the production of a spaceship that the Enclave wanted to design and produce in order to get humanity off of the irradiated hellscape of Earth. That per Isaiah Johnson, a former Interplay writing assistant.
Their plan was also to basically send out the FEV virus with a different strain, by the way.
Yes.
And kill everybody.
To wipe out anyone that was not a, quote, pure blood human.
Yep.
Which, holy freaking Holocaust.
Yeah, imagine.
Right? And that modification to the FEV virus had been put forth by, in its development phases, by then acting Secretary of Agriculture Thomas Eckhart, who would go on to become the president of the remnants of the United States of America, and the key president of the Enclave.
Who I also killed on the oil, on
the Poseidon oil rig.
Oil plant, yeah.
Now, I've seen a lot of folks bring up the question about Fallout 2, like, how the hell did this oil rig survive the destruction and the radiation of the Great War? What folks fail to understand is that if you watch the sequences, even in the, I personally didn't care for Fallout 4 all that much.
It was not my favorite.
No.
The only thing that Fallout 4 ever did good, in my own honest opinion, was the power armor. That's it. That was probably the only thing I actually enjoyed in the whole game. Otherwise, the story, the narrative...
It was all kind of garbage. Yeah. Especially...
that not having the freedom to pick and choose how your character, proceeds the wasteland.
Not only that you were kind of on a semi-linear path, but your dialogue options were so shunted down. Every conversation, it didn't really seem to matter what dialogue choice you made. Mm-hmm. The end byplay of the conversations was all the same. That's why I detest this notion that, well, we want everything to be fully voice acted, even the protagonist. No, you lose so much versatility.
Yeah.
In a game franchise that is known for its narrative,
it doesn't.
You don't do that.
I was gonna say, no matter what you do to your character, he's still gonna be Nate or Nora.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what you do.
Like for a traditional Japanese style RPG, JRPG, you're not supposed to use that term anymore. Fuck you, people. That's a whole other ramble for another time. I'll get into that maybe a little bit here and there. But part of JRPGs is that when you have a character that you get to name, it's because they are a stand-in avatar for you. Mm-hmm. It's part of why Fallout 4 felt more like kind of a shunted, you're just controlling this character through their story. Mm-hmm. You don't get to really choose or decide anything.
It was the same thing with Master Chief and Halo. And a lot of people didn't realize that either, especially with the new show that came out, which is garbage, by the way.
I tried watching like 3 episodes of that, and I was like, no, I'm out.
Total garbage. But anyhow, what I was about to dive into as far as that goes, bringing Fallout into that whole mix. Well, Fallout 4, to be specific.
Yeah.
Is the simple fact where when you play the first game of Halo, yeah, Master Chief spoke a little bit, but you never seen his face.
No.
There's a reason why for that. Because the game back then was supposed to envision you being in the suit. That's why you never seen the face.
Right. It was you were the avatar of combat.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, Master Chief already had a pretty monotone, heroic voice anyway, so...
Right.
There wasn't really much of a... I mean, he had a personality, sort of, but, like, it wasn't nothing to be like, oh, yeah, that would be Master Chief. That's something he would do. The only thing you knew about him was he was a Spartan. It was John 117, you know?
Right. He was an elite soldier. That's all you needed to know.
That's the same thing with, like, a Fallout protagonist or antagonist. Like, if you're going to be set, like, in the pilot seat for the character, you should be the only one, like, talking, but not in a voice sense, but, like, reading off, like, your own dialogue.
Right, and when you use the classic system of conversation throughout the games, you're able to inject at least your own projected voice into the words on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of figure, how would I say the lines that are in front of me? How would I deliver it? There's a mental component to the gameplay as well as the gameplay itself when you have it delivered that way.
I look at it as a fork in the road for events to happen. Like, I can either choose this dialogue option, go down this path, or this path, or this path.
Right.
I could
and
be
they
a
would all
dickhead, a
kind
good
of,
guy, or neutral.
right. They would correspond to your playstyle,
Right.
which grants further
Own
further
character
involved.
development.
Yeah, it involves you further into the actual interplay.
It helps with the lore of your own character as well.
Yep. Now, back to the question that I've seen pop up on a lot of the message boards. How did the Poseidon oil rig survive?
Mm-hmm.
You look at all of the descriptions of the bombs falling. You see the videos, the opening sequence of 4, when you see the bombs going off as you're descending into the vault.
Mm-hmm.
These were ground impact explosions. Now, I'm going to get a little nerdy into some of the science of nuclear armaments for just a minute or two.
It's fun. That's what we're here for.
Thermonuclear warheads that impact and detonate, or rather that detonate on impact with a surface level object or the surface of the planet itself, wherever it may land. The nuclear yield and blast radius of an individual standard nuclear warhead doesn't actually blast out very far at all, approximately 5 to 10 miles. The shockwave ring, the fiery thermal, you're going to burn to death and be a pile of ashes, that ring stretches out for about another 4 or 5 miles, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, your biggest concern is where the winds are traveling, carrying nuclear fallout and particulates. That's your biggest concern. An oil rig out in the middle of the ocean with no land masses for a thermonuclear warhead to strike a hard enough surface to detonate it is not going to cause any damage. What people, I think, are thinking about, what they have in mind, is the more modern application of atmospheric detonation. When a thermonuclear device is detonated in atmosphere or over the ground, when it's set by a trigger or a timer to detonate when it comes within a certain distance of surface, that's when the blast ring, the initial nuclear blast ring radius, stretches out to somewhere around 35 to 80 miles, dependent on the yield. And that's just the initial blast ring.
Right.
That's the nuclear blast.
That's a bigger spread to yield.
Right. The shock wave and the thermal wave that come afterward can stretch up to 250 miles for a singular device on detonation in air.
That's wild.
If that were how the Chinese and the United States were detonating their weapons in the Fallout universe, yeah, that oil rig would have been guaranteed decimated. But you have to look at the actual view of how they were detonating their devices in universe in Fallout. They were all using ground impact detonation. That's why you still have patches of the wastelands that are not irradiated, that are still habitable by human civilization. Now, the resultant EMPs, yeah, that knocks out fucking everything. And that's a whole other question. Well, how did we still then have working power armor? This, again, was accounted for by the rather genius developers of the original games, in that the central, where is it here? Regarding power armor and EMPs, the original T-51 power armor was designed narratively to have a core shielding within its power unit of a semi-regulated Faraday cage casing. In other words, there is a protective layer of copper mesh around the power unit on every individual suit of power armor, such that when the EMPs kicked off from the nuclear blasts, so long as the power armored unit was not within the initial nuclear strike zone blast radius, it would be shut or powered down temporarily. It would be able to be turned back on or restarted with a singular spark.
Right.
So all you needed to do was have a shielded capacitor, carry it up to a power suit, hook it into the charge port, click it once with just a little spark, and it'll get the whole thing running up again.
Right. But then they introduced the fusion cores in Fallout 4 for the power armor. And that became a whole
which
thing.
That then kind of nullifies the whole need to worry about the narrative explanation that the folks at Interplay and Black Isle Studio had worked so painstakingly to research. And while it's not scientifically accurate, we are talking about they came close enough that it's so much easier to suspend disbelief. When the people working on a project like this care about getting you invested in the lore and in the narrative, they're willing to go that extra mile to do the research.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I liked about Fallout 1 too. It was just so much more in depth. Don't get me wrong, I still, I enjoyed Fallout 3, New Vegas. But after that, Fallout 4 came out, everybody was excited, I was excited. I was just kind of like, okay, but where do I really come into this?
Right, like, it's not like they dropped a turd in our laps, because I was able to enjoy the game for what it was.
For a little while.
But it was definitely a step down.
Very much so. The weapons were decent. They could have been better, I think.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen some more variety of enemies too.
That too. The assault rifle was not really a fan of. It was like a World War I Maxim machine gun with a box mag attached to it. It had this big water-cooled barrel on it. And I was like, what are we doing here? We're like in like a nuclear 60s kind of era here. Why are we still using Maxim machine guns?
Well, I think we were trying to rely on the conceit that this was like that Fallout 4 was. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it set before the events of New Vegas and 3?
Daddy. Hey, Bath.
We're going to give you one in a little bit here, buddy.
A little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a bath before I had to work because you got scrunch going on in your hair.
Yeah,
yeah, the question.
Oh, sorry, I was not muted for all that. Sorry.
Okay, so sorry, I lost track. What was the question again? You said something about Fallout New Vegas, something they said.
Yeah, I was trying to remember like the timeline for when Fallout 4's events took place in comparison to the events of Fallout 3 and New Vegas.
Let's see here. I'll tell you that in just a moment. So it took place 6 years after Fallout. Wait, am I reading that right? No, it took place 6 years before. Fallout 4 took place 6 years after New Vegas. And New Vegas took place 6 years before Fallout 4.
Yeah, for some reason I thought it was. I might have been thinking about Fallout 76, which I haven't played and will never play.
I mean, it's not a bad game if you like a Fallout kind of vibe, but it's like something you kind of turn your brain off to. It's not something I would like dive into and be like, oh, but the lore. I kind of enjoy it for what it is, but it's not. In my own honest opinion, it's not something I would write home about as a traditional Fallout game. But like my own tradition of Fallout would be Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas.
Yeah. And then
if you were made like the tactics, because I enjoy that kind of thing.
Yeah, tactics wasn't bad. It was a little off the road of Fallout, but I enjoyed it. It was a little different.
Yeah. And I know that was kind of the framework that they used to that Fallout Tactics was the framework they used to ultimately end up making Wastelanders 2 and 3.
Wastelanders.
Yeah, it's a squad-based tactical RPG.
Oh, you mean Wasteland?
Wasteland, sorry.
Yeah. I have both of those. I own both of them.
I've never played either of them. I'd love to.
I beat the second one. I still got to beat the third one. But I can tell you from what I played of the third one, it's very, very much amazing.
Here.
I will have to give that a try.
Matter of fact, I'll bring up a trailer of Wasteland 3.
And while Brother Cortex is bringing up that trailer, because again, I did a lot of digging and reading up on the Enclave in my downtime. I can shut up and wait till after the trailer.
No, go right ahead. I can do this right here.
All right. So I often find myself wondering, like, given their obvious resources, given their familiarity with what world events, what was going to happen, what was going on after the bombs dropped, how did the Enclave not just come right out and absolutely dominate the entirety of the Wastelands, including the Brotherhood of Steel? And a big component that comes in there is that, for one, the Enclave leadership was caught off guard regarding when exactly the bombs would drop. They knew it was going to happen. And Eckhart had been pushing for preemptive nuclear strikes against the Chinese pre the start of the war. And his fellow Enclave members had been preparing the bunkers, preparing the Poseidon oil rig, as well as their central command Enclave station. But they got caught off guard. It happened. The bomb drop happened before they were prepared for it to happen. And another reason why they didn't start off with as much of a lead as one might expect, given their deep state status, the United States Department of Defense was able to keep Enclave agents from getting a hold of the specific design schematics for the power armor, the T-51 power armor. So they were starting kind of behind the eight ball there when it came to post-war. However,
they actually designed their own power armor, the XL1.
They had their own. They had the XL1 Duraframe Hellfire power armor, designed and manufactured by the Duraframe Technologies Corporation. Now, I mentioned Duraframe already. Earlier, you may have remembered, I mentioned that they were the ones who designed and created the iBots. Again, I am going back to Isaiah Johnson from Interplay Studios. Duraframe Corporation was initially written up to be a kind of poke or corollary at our current modern day real world weapons manufacturing companies. Kind of like a, hey, we see you fuckers. We know what you're all about. You're all about profit off of warfare and death. And that's kind of what Duraframe Industries was designed to be, is that poke.
Well, there was like the different resource wars, the different company wars. Like each of the companies that were making weapons, making different essential survival items, if you will, like they were all kind of like, like on each other's neck, essentially. Like they were all developing new ways to survive the apocalypse. The whole point of what they were doing was to sell the apocalypse.
Right, to sell people, you will survive.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites out of that is that the H&H Tool Corporation that you can kind of find scattered throughout a lot of the New Vegas properties when you're playing that game.
Believe me, I'm aware of them, especially their nail gun.
Yeah, H&H Tools was apparently designed as a dummy holding company by Vault-Tec in order to sell kind of cheap, shitty home goods and tools to the plebs who were not going to survive the war. Basically, it was Vault-Tec saying, look, we can squeeze a few extra dollars out of the people who aren't going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, holy shit, you people were inhuman.
Yeah, them, Robco, Poseidon Energy.
Hey, wait, was Fisto a Robco product?
Believe so. Believe so.
If you don't know what Fisto is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, go ahead and do a quick Google on New Vegas Fisto.
Please assume the appropriate position.
Yeah, oh God.
Fucking Protectron.
It's like he's not protecting you from anything.
No.
He's causing irreparable damage.
Giving you the hammering of a lifetime.
What kills me is like, how come nobody thought to take Fisto and drop him into the middle of that fucking Deathclaw pit where the excavation site?
Oh God.
Let's see Fisto go up against the Mama Deathclaw there.
You're talking about the quarry, yeah.
Yeah, the quarry.
Yeah, I had a good time going there with an anti-material rifle.
Can I briefly ask, like, what the hell? One thing I have to grumble about. What the hell were the folks at Obsidian thinking? Putting that pit, that quarry, so close to where you start the game.
It's kind of simple. It's just like Fallout 1 when you venture west and you run the super mutants with miniguns.
Yeah, basically they're like,
right.
Hey, here's what's going to happen. There are parts of this game's world that you absolutely cannot handle when you first start playing.
Yeah, miniguns, rocket launchers, flamethrowers, and laser guns.
Makes me think of the meme, the Final Fantasy VIII meme. Start of the game, and it's just you know, Squall walking along, and then the next frame, he's running away from a fucking Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Right. Yeah. Going that far west, you find out real quick. You either get taken in and you meet Lieutenant Lou, or you just get destroyed. Or if you're a smart character and you go to Necropolis, and then you finally run into Harry. He was like really dumb lieutenant, or not lieutenant. I think he was either trying to think what he was rank wise, but he was a leader of the super mutants,
right?
Because they wiped out all the ghouls in Necropolis to take their water from them.
Get your Aqua Pura here today, folks.
Yeah, that was back when ghouls literally hated people.
Goddamn smooth skins.
Like, you would walk in, you meet Seth, he's like, hello, Normie. Does next on the menu ring a bell for you?
Oh, hey guys, just met a new smooth skin friend. Yeah, I think we're gonna call him.
Oh, that's how he said it. He was like, there better be a killer reason for why you're standing in my shadow. Does next on the menu ring a bell for you, Normie?
Oh yeah, because that was the original term they used for humans was Normie.
Yep. Again, that was before the smooth skin.
I was like, I'm trapped in
Fallout 2. They called you smooth skin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, especially when you meet up with Harold and he's got a little tree dangling out of his forehead.
Harold,
the ghoul. Harold, he's not a ghoul, but he's a mutant.
Right. Is he the one who you find in he's an actual fucking full-fledged tree?
Pretty sure it was the hub. Well, no, he's in Fallout 3. He's a full tree.
He's in 3, right? He's a
Yeah.
full fucking tree.
But in the first
shit.
game, though, you meet him and he doesn't have a tree growing out of his head yet. But he's only got one eyeball. I mean, because the other one's fused shut.
Okay, so there was already signs that like some shit's gonna.
Yeah.
Again,
He looked like a ghoul though, but he was a mutant. He wasn't a ghoul.
Gorgeously carried on the narrative for a character who, I imagine when they first wrote him into that first game, I honestly, I imagine they had no future designs for him, no plans.
No.
But then
he was actually a bum when you find him in Fallout 1.
Right, but someone thought, here's something we can do that's interesting to utilize that, and just carried it forward. My God. You look at that, and then you look at these modern examples of current day developers, and, well, we're going to tell a story that's all inclusive, and we don't want Lara Croft to be raiding tombs anymore because it's cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
Suck my dick.
There's a reason why I didn't finish Starfield.
I
don't know if you know about that.
No, I mean I've heard that it was like
it was garbage. It's garbage. And
yeah,
right at the start of the game, it's fucking horribly boring. I almost fell asleep trying to play it. There's a reason why I only have a part 1 to that, and I never finished it. I couldn't bring myself to finish it. It's that fucking boring. Picture Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is like base, the game. No power armor, but you get spacesuits and ships. It's literally just Fallout 4 in space. Same design of the weapons, everything. The guns sound like shit. The guns look cool, but they sound like shit.
So,
and they introduce pronouns at the very beginning when you start your character.
That much I already knew about, because there's a.
Well, it plays into the game later on.
Wait, seriously?
Yes, it does, unfortunately. There is a character that you come across who was a admiral or officer of a ship, who was a man at the time, but was then cloned to be a woman.
Oh, so someone wanted to give Admiral Levine its dream scenario. Great. Hey, folks, got news for you. He doesn't fucking play video games.
Basically, yeah, well, there's something I need to tell you. I've got a big, massive flopping cock. And I'm just going to flop it down like a giant boat hitting water.
I'm sorry. Give me one moment. Give me one moment. I gotta share. All right. Look, folks, if you're watching now or you're watching later, I know that we promised to talk just about Fallout, but we also
I had to bring it up.
No, it's okay. We didn't have like an exact hard outline for what we were going to be doing today.
It was just a general talk of Fallout.
Yeah, I wanted to present something here. Hold up. Where have I got it here?
Oh, let me do this real quick.
Sure.
Because we brought up Harold, and it kind of made me think about something, so hold on real quick.
Sure thing.
This is the initial moment where you meet Harold, and he's in the hub. I believe it's either the hub or the den. No, it's not the den. It's definitely the hub.
Okay.
Oh, hold on.
Is a bit down in the dumps. Speaking with him will give us some insight into his backstory.
I don't want that. Here we go.
Spare change, old friend, old pal. Can you help a poor mutant down on his luck?
Yeah, here's 25 caps. Good luck to you.
Very kind. You know, if I could clear the gunk out of there, you just might find a tear in old Harold's eye. rest of the Hubbard's been picking on me like a bad booger since I came back to town. I can't leave, though. When the deals are done, it's still my home. You're in the hub, right? People who live in the hub. Hubbers, get it? Jeez. Hubbers.
They
Well, after the Great War, my vault
They
was
kept
one of the
his
first
face.
to open. Phew, long time. I got mutated. Sure wasn't born this ugly. Happened when we tried to find out where all the mutants were coming from. We mounted an expedition. God, Richard Gray led a small group of us up there. I can't remember the route or anything, but I am damn sure it was northwest, though. I think. Richard Gray was a doctor. A little older than me, and Fran was he smart. He found the source. Some sort of old military base. We lost a lot of folks getting in there. Because it was like someone went bargain shopping at Mutant Land. Phew, cheaper by the dozens. Can't figure any other reason except that being the factory. We got pretty far inside. Wasn't a lot of us left by then. Gray, me, and a couple of others. One of them robots got Francine. Mark was wounded. Sent him back to the surface. Then it was just me and Gray. To this day, I don't know. He never made it back here, and, well, I couldn't face the wasteland again, so I never looked. We made it to some sort of central core, like a plant of some sort. That's when it happened. A robot crane crashed into us. Last I saw Gray, he was flying through the air and into some sort of acid bath. I was in bad shape and, well, I passed out. No, you idiot! I just said I never saw him again, didn't I? Well, I have no idea. Woke up in the wasteland, barely hanging on. Got lucky, and some traders I knew found me days later. Good thing, since I was already changing. They brought me here, and here I've been since. All I know is it was something inside that base. How the hell should I know? Gray would have known if anybody could. Anyway, that's how the deal went down. Well, thanks for letting me tell it. Well, after the all started with the sirens. I was young, but oh, I do remember that. A lot of terrible years followed. And I remember walking out of the vault late one morning. You know, I'm not real sure anymore. West, I think. Wait, east? Oh, I don't know what.
Yeah, so that's Harold.
And if I recall Fallout 3 and that expansion, they kept they remained pretty true to his face design.
Oh, yeah.
In the tree.
Well, you want to see what he looked like in Fallout 2?
Sure.
He looks different in Fallout 2. This is where you start to notice the tree protruding out of his head. It's like a little stump growing out.
Oh, yep. Yep.
He's a little more green this time.
Yeah, it makes me wonder when he decided to take his ass out to the East Coast to Maryland.
Yeah, good question.
Now, I mentioned some of the modern audience, modern day devs, and the whole socio-political nonsense that they've been dragging us all through.
You mean like what they're trying to do to Warhammer?
Yeah, with the Warhammer, fucking just everything. But I only get fed up after too much gets lumped on my head, and I oftentimes start growling. Whoa, hold up. Sorry about that. Colin woke up from his nap. Apparently, he's a little grumpy. So I'll have to probably hop off here soon. But wanted to share this little thing that I found myself writing up the other day. I want you to imagine in the background you're hearing the soft music of one of those kind of pharmaceutical commercials for something that's deals with a very grave condition.
Sounds like Umbrella.
Yeah, and like almost a summer's eve kind of background soundtrack.
Umbrella Corporation written all over it.
Yep. So here we go. Do you experience elevated heart rate when you see red baseball caps, regardless of the logo on them? When Trump is found not guilty or has certain charges dismissed, do you feel a shortness of breath? Hold on one moment. Do you feel a shortness of breath? Do you believe a woman is a woman by mere dint of claiming out loud to be one? Do you support gun restrictions out of one side of your mouth while bemoaning the rise in violent crimes and criminal assaults and violence in your own neighborhood? Do you still wear a mask despite conclusive post-lockdown clarifications that they do not help in mitigating the transmission of COVID-19? You may be suffering from a condition known as libtardia. Libtardia is a serious and chronically debilitating illness with symptoms ranging from involuntarily trying to muddy commonly understood terms and believing words are violence to not grasping fifth grade logic and believing also that silence is violence. But there is hope. Now, this is where a hand would come in screen with a little red pill. Reality. Yes, once daily 50 milligrams Reality can help combat the worst symptoms of your libtardia and get you on track to living a full life based on facts and evidence instead of woke communist talking points. You can join the thousands of everyday people finally freeing themselves of this terrible condition. Just listen to these testimonials. Tom from Philadelphia. I used to think my girlfriend with a bigger dick than mine was a real fine woman because he said his pronouns were she and her. But thanks to once daily Reality, I now realize I'm just a flaming homo. Sarah from Minnesota. Oh yeah, I was stuck in a cycle of excusing anti-white bigotry because like all people suffering with libtardia, I believed that a person couldn't be racist against whitey. But then, with once daily Reality, I realized that everyone assuming and calling white people as a whole a bunch of X, Y, or Z, they were engaging in exactly the definition of anti-white racism, don't you know? And Ken from Massachusetts. I used to think Joe Biden was a wise, thoughtful leader and a great, honest family man. With one dose of once daily Reality, I was finally able to see that he's a kid-sniffing geriatric who can barely form complete sentences. Certain side effects of Reality include a strong desire to change your party registration, involuntary exhortations of let's go Brandon, and the realization that you've been lied to for years. If you live in a county or state dominated by Democrats, do not start taking Reality without the advice and consultation of a conservative, moderate, or libertarian, as the sudden realization that you and yours are geographically screwed can cause an unsafe case of arrhythmia. Reality. Little red pill. Incredible results.
Wow. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Reality.
Yeah, it's spelled reality just with a hyphen between the A and the L. I'm trying to think of how I can do this as a sketch. Yeah, I'm going to get you dressed.
Man, that being a sketch, especially on YouTube, it'll get taken down so quick.
Oh, that's fine. I would just upload it to BitChute and Rumble. Say fuck YouTube.
Yeah.
I have my camera off right now because my boy got out of the bath and he's walking around butt friggin' naked. So I got to get him dressed.
Gotcha. Well, since we were talking about Wasteland, I still have the trailer pulled up. So I'm going to give that a play here.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Actually, hold up.
Oh, are you getting back into it? Oh, okay. You just wanted your brother to get in there too?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, buddy.
All right, here we go. What's up, AD?
Rangers, this is the Patriarch of Colorado speaking. Thank you for agreeing to help me. I believe this partnership will be beneficial to both of us.
You will bring my fractious children to heal, while I will ensure the continued existence of your organization. Just be warned. Your trip to Colorado will not be easy.
I have arms all spotless, are they white as the snow? Are you washed in the blood of
Nice.
the Lamb?
Gangs and cults watch the passes and prey on the unwary.
Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
You will have to fight to reach us.
Here comes the pain train.
But reach us you must, Rangers. We have a war to win.
Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
God damn, that looks good.
Yeah. I've beaten Wasteland 2. I've only gotten I can't really say a quarter of Wasteland 3. But I'm going to give both of them a playthrough. It's Wasteland 3, AD.
That's another one I gotta watch. Because I've gone back and watched a couple of your other playthroughs.
Yeah.
How you doing, AD?
Wasteland is actually the same guys who made the original Fallouts. They made this game.
Oh, nice.
They originally had Wasteland 1, which is it was like a kind of like an older, like DOS-like game, I guess, if you will. But it wasn't
right. It wasn't that kind of a spiritual success, or not it was sort of an almost not prequel, but it was an inspiration.
I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, personally, I wouldn't play it, but I mean, I like the idea of it.
Yeah.
But when Wasteland 2 came out, I mean, man, I was such a noob at Wasteland 2. He said that he was playing Harbor today. Are you talking about Far Harbor?
Far Harbor.
Yeah.
Fucking, that's the name of the place in the expansion. I kept forgetting the name of it where Harold ended up.
Yeah, he was surrounded by a cult, and they were drinking his sap.
Yeah, and that's where he had the hallucinations with like the giant bobbleheads.
No, that was Point Lookout.
Oh, sorry. Point Lookout. Wait. Was Far Harbor 4?
No, Far Harbor was... Oh, yeah. Far Harbor was in 4. Yeah.
Okay. My mistake.
Because they had the crazy trapper men. Because they wandered out in the fog and they went crazy. There was like a radioactive fog, and like there was a synth that pretty much controlled the entire like island. that
Okay,
Far
'cause
Harbor's
I didn't
on.
play any. I didn't play any of the expansions for 4.
So like it pretty much pushed all the regular people to the shore. Like they were all stuck on a pier pretty much. Like as the whole land was like irradiated. It had like a radioactive fog going around.
So basically, a perfect home for death claws.
Death claws, ghouls, whatever inhabited it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be like a ghoul paradise. Are you looking to get away from the smooth skins in your area? Then come on down to Far Harbor.
Yeah. It was pretty nuts. But like I said before, though, I mean, I enjoyed the show. As a Fallout 1 and 2 fan, though, it could have been a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate when you've got situations where there's something that in the adaptation you find it tolerable, but you still come away with a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed season 1 of The Witcher, but something already like immediately felt off to me.
Well, that's the reason why Henry Cavill left it. The writers were not honoring the lore of the game or the books.
Yeah. And then I guess he's looking to walk away potentially from Warhammer.
Yep, I just seen that. He's already threatening to leave it.
Which it blows my mind. It's like, look, you people are relying on this guy to bring in a fan base. He walked away from a project before because it wasn't being true to its source material. Do you think he wouldn't walk away again?
Right.
The guy has already said, hey, double finger.
Pretty much.
And if he's willing to do that to a Netflix production, what makes you think you have a chance in hell of keeping him around for $40K, which he's a deep fan of?
Yeah. Well, it's not so much that he's a picky actor. It's companies trying to write bullshit into things that they shouldn't. They're trying to rewrite and retcon things and make things into what they want it to be, which wasn't originally that. Like,
now,
the whole thing of why this whole thing blew up with Warhammer is if you're not a Warhammer fan, I'll give it to you briefly. Basically, set in the lore, there was a emperor who united mankind through primates, which then he had his own genetics and organs put into a legion of 10,000 soldiers. These were like fucking 9-foot tall soldiers in power armor. Basically one-man armies, but there were 10,000 of them. And they were the sons of the emperor. So where the problem comes into play, as they just recently put into the lore of Warhammer, they are trying to introduce female custodes, which are the Adeptus Custodes, which is the Emperor's bodyguards. Which was never a thing. They were the sons of the Emperor.
Right.
Men.
Right.
They were always men.
Yep. These were, and it says in the terminology, sons of the Emperor. Not children, not offspring.
No.
Sons of the Emperor.
They made power armor in Fallout look like a joke. Like they're that big and strong. Like I'm if I'm not mistaken, like their weapons could easily surpass through Fallout power armor. It's just they're literally carrying around lances with 75 caliber round weapons on them. If that tells you anything. But that's not the whole point of why that's a thing. Like what the issue where the issue lies is you have the Adeptus Custodes and you have the Sisters of Silence, which are like the female counterpart, but they're not really a counterpart.
Right.
they work together.
Right.
They're like the top of the elite chain of the Imperium.
I tend to look at them as like Warhammer's version of Valkyries.
Yeah. Yeah, literally 9 foot tall in power armor. They're basically like if you took like I don't want to say the Doom Marine, but they're just like genetically modified humans that are so badass they are a one-man army on their own. Like easily 10 of them could probably take a planet. They're that crazy.
It's kind of like throwing. It would be akin to throwing a fully operational Gundam in the middle of a feudal Edo period Japanese military contingent. Shit's not going to go well for the little squishies.
Yeah, no.
Your sword may be pretty, but against high caliber laser rifles, you're dead.
Well, like I said, they carry lances around with 75 caliber round weapons.
Yeah.
They're called bolters. They're basically a step up from the 50 cal. Not to mention the blade itself already splits at a cellular level.
I understand that there might be some folks who would say, "Oh, well, he's just being too finicky. He's being too picky, or too attentive to the details." And some folks may find that, yeah, they don't understand or appreciate that perspective. But if you go into an acting gig and you set certain expectations for the studio you're working with, if you tell them, "Hey, look, I've been a fan of this intellectual artistic property for a long time. I'm deeply devoted to this franchise, to this particular series. I have a deep understanding and appreciation of the history, the lore, the artwork, the stories that are associated with this property. I will work with you to adapt and produce it, but I need you to be respectful of the source material." If then that studio starts to go off track, I think it's well within the actor or actress's purview to say, "Hey, you're fucking with the material. I asked you not to do that." Or, "I told you if you did that, I'm out." Maybe that's too finicky for some studios to want to work with, and they would label him as difficult to work with. But if that's how they are, and they have a reputation for that, you knew what you were getting into as the studio.
Mm-hmm.
You were counting on this guy to bring in eyeballs to your property, to your adaptation. You were relying on and leaning on his notoriety and his favorability with the already extant fan base of the property to bring them along with. If you betray that trust, you've no one to blame but your fucking selves. When they decide, "Deuces, we're out."
That's the thing, though, is there's already, like I said, you have the faction, like, they're both on the same sort of level, except the Custodies are a little bit more stronger than the Sisters of Silence. Like, they're kind of hand in hand, but they're not. I mean, like I said,
they have a different mission parameter too.
They're bodyguards.
Their purpose is different. The Custodies are there to protect and serve the Emperor directly.
Yeah, these are the guys right here.
Whereas the Sisters of Silence, if I'm not mistaken, they actually go out on forward war sorties, don't they?
The Custodies also do, depending on how desperate the situation is.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's desperate enough that you see those guys coming, you know that shit's gotten really fucking bad.
Well, that or they just, you know, they do the exterminatus to the planet, which is basically fry the whole planet from orbit.
Well, yeah, if you're overrun with orcs, you got very little other choice.
Well, orcs, chaos, invasion, or tyrannids. And when I say chaos, I mean like Nurgle infestation, like a full planet-wide Nurgle infestation. Which, in other words, basically the worst of the worst of plagues. The whole planet is a giant cyst, essentially.
It's kind of a tumor at that point.
Yeah, like everything is a... One of the sorcerers from Nurgle, from the Plague Marines, considered their work as a garden. So, like, the whole planet was considered a garden of Nurgle. Like, picture everything being alive in a sense of flesh and, like, plague-ridden. So, fauna, plants, life, people with, like, fucked up faces, with, like, mutated limbs, horns growing out of their heads. Anything you could think of out of the movie The Thing, think of Nurgle.
You know what that puts me in mind of? Is that SCP we had started covering, where the everything under the sun
Yeah,
absorbed into one giant entity / consciousness.
yeah. When the when the
Dawn
sun
breaks.
went wrong, yeah, when day breaks.
Day breaks. I don't know why I said dawn. I think because of sunrise. Colin.
Okay, here's a good picture. Just this is a reason why they would exterminate a planet, right here. If we had stuff like this walking around.
Nice.
Yeah, that's not a simple kill it with fire. That's a wipe out the planet. Move along.
Mind you, look at the ground.
Yeah, even the ground is part of them.
Yeah. So, but I mean, with Warhammer, I can get so off topic. I'm not trying to, but yeah, that was the whole big
sorry.
issue.
And I didn't. This is again why we didn't have a format. We were coming in today to try and warm ourselves back up, get back into the flow of things a little bit.
Yeah.
Hence why we had a general guideline. We're going to start with Fallout and see where we stream of consciousness off from there.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We'll have a setup format that, works.
Yeah. For a couple of guys who are just nerding out, trying to say, hello, everyone, we're still alive. We're still here. I wouldn't say we're doing too badly. You are not a bird.
Yeah.
Lay down, you goof. You're a big bird.
Well, it's just basically us nerding out. We're not really doing something like the deep dives like we normally do.
No, although, now that you have mentioned that, would you, brother, like to inform our good friends?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I can't bring the camera down because the boys are, like I said, they just got out of the bath. Would you like to kind of imply to the audience what we're looking ahead at doing?
Oh, yeah, so the deep dives that we're coming back to will be the back rooms and the oldest view. Those are coming back. There's videos on both. The other one's not so much an official video, but it was well received enough that I thought it was worth covering. But the oldest view, there will be I guess there was like an alternate ending. So that's something we'll be getting into. As I was looking through things, I was just kind of, whoa. I was trying to bring something up. It was like when we were talking about Warhammer. Because everybody's so used to Space Marines being like the poster child for Warhammer. I'm trying to find some decent art of the Plague Marines.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Warhammer generally originally a fantasy franchise?
Yes.
I thought so.
Well, you have Warhammer and you have Warhammer 40k.
Okay, right.
40k is set, 40,000 years in the future.
I guess it's true what they say. War never changes.
That's not so true in Warhammer.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously some things change.
Yeah, especially when you devote yourself to a chaos god and your body starts twisting and contorting into some freakish nightmare.
You gotta wonder if like Cronenberg saw that shit coming.
I'm sorry, what?
I said you have to wonder if Cronenberg saw some shit coming. If you're familiar with his works.
I don't think I am.
He was the gentleman who was responsible for The Fly.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of other like body horror based kind of short horror stories and films. He also did Videodrome, was a Cronenberg movie. A lot of stuff back in the 80s and 90s. They make reference to him in Rick and Morty with, I think it's near the end of season 2 with the Cronenberging of their world.
Oh, right.
Hey, so, yeah, Cronenberg, Morty.
Here's a Plague Marine that I was bringing up because I was trying to find art.
Yeah, he looks like he's not going to have to exactly call into work sick on Monday. He just is sick.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's what happens when you devote yourself to a chaos god known as Nurgle.
Hey, buddy.
There's another picture for you.
Is that like a maw in his stomach?
Yes.
That's pretty freaking neat. Like weird and neat. I like that.
Yeah, like they'll have like horns, mouths, and everything protrude out of their armor. Their armor will swell up. They'll grow pustules on their armor and stuff. It's insane.
So wait, is their armor biomechanical?
Wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be originally. But I think it's where the body is like bloated so much inside the armor that it then starts to protrude out of the armor.
Now, when exactly was the first Fallout game? When did that come out?
Let's see. Fallout 1 came out in 1997.
Okay, so 40K has been around for
In the
how long?
80s.
Okay, so do you think that the folks at Interplay and Black Isle Studios, you think they kind of based their power armor around 40Ks?
No.
I'm not talking
It's similar, but
I was saying, I'm
no.
not talking like technicalities or mechanics. I'm thinking more
Like
artistic
the idea.
design choice, like artistic design choices, like
No.
the base concept. Like
I mean, it's a possibility, but the thing is, though, between power armor for like humans in Fallout and power armor in Warhammer, big old difference. The power armor in Fallout you can get into, like clothing almost. The power armor in Warhammer is specifically suited to you as a augmented space marine or Adeptus Astartes. So essentially, when you're being suited in a suit of power armor in Warhammer, you have a couple of brainless robots called servitors, which are basically criminals that were given the book of, okay, you're sentenced to being a human forklift, essentially. And you'll be operated by I guess, like a cybernetic tech priest. So essentially, you're lobotomized and turned to a human forklift.
dear Lord.
And during the process, like of suiting up in armor, those servitors with like the augmented like claw hands and drill arms or whatever will be suiting on the armor for you. Like they'll be putting it on piece by piece. They put on like a suit that then has like sockets that they place onto the suit itself. But even the Space Marine himself has augmented sockets in his body that match up with the armor. Like in their shoulders, in their chest, everything. So essentially the armor is almost a part of them.
Right, it becomes an extension of their body.
Kind of like an exoskeleton.
So then do they feel the impact or damage being done to the armor?
Sort of, not really, considering it's ceramite. It all depends on the weapons that are being shot at them. So, like, let's say a group of, like, guardsmen with las guns and auto guns. If they were shooting at you, the Space Marine probably wouldn't care. It'd probably just piss them off, if anything. It'd be like
Kinda
shooting
like
a 22 at a... It'd be like shooting a 22 at a bear.
Oh, okay. So you're just trying to make yourself lunch quicker. Gotcha.
Yeah. Now, if a bolt gun or a las cannon or a plasma rifle, something that's got, high caliber or, high power was being shot at a Space Marine, then yeah, they would probably feel it. But to a Space Marine, losing a limb, it can be replaced. All they would do is prosthetically put on a robotic arm.
Okay, so they kind of end up like a
They
crash
don't
test
care
dummy.
about their limbs.
Right. Becomes like a crash test dummy.
They see it as glory. Like, oh, I lost my arm in battle. Well, it doesn't matter. I'll get a new one. Like, it's a war, kind of like a war trophy in a way, even though you lost your fucking arm.
Yeah, it's like a scar, except
Yeah.
you can point to your scar instead of on your body. Point to it on the shelf on the wall. Where'd you get that arm? It used to be mine.
All right. Let's see here. Essentially, this is how it looks when they're outside of armor. Let me see. There we go. There's a good scale right there. A little blurry of the picture, but it'll do. But yeah, that's a space marine.
They've got like those peg ports.
Yep. They're still big no matter what, though. The armor doesn't matter. They're still dangerous. Mind you, these were children taken from their families at a very early age, who then had to prove themselves through trials and then accept organs from a Primarch that would either accept them or reject them. And it was a 50-50 shot. If they rejected you, then good God. The organs themselves would essentially contort your body into a pretzel and kill you. And it's a very agonizing pain. Mind you, this is all done without any sedation.
That puts me in mind of the Grey Wardens from Dragon Age.
Yeah, so
but anywho, kids are getting a little antsy for me to get them lunch here, so I am going to have to call it a day for myself on this end.
sounds good. I'm probably going to go play some Dark Souls 2 and rage at it.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to listen in for your frustration.
Yeah.
But anywho, brother, it was really good getting back on and chit-chatting again.
For sure.
For talking over some Fallout and a little other nerd shit. And I apologize for the ramble there in the middle with that commercial.
No,
sketch.
You're fine. I'm not going to ever sit here and shy away from the actual issues of what's going on.
Once daily, reality.
Right.
Little red. Paul, perfect. Little red pill. Incredible results.
Reality. That's funny.
I got to figure out how to get that actually filmed.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to figure out what we're going to do next and when.
Wait. Well, I'm pretty much back to my old kind of habituations where Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, shortly after I get home from dropping off the oldest at daycare, Malia and Colin kind of have started doing their own playing together, even though she's just crawling. She's not upright walking around yet. But they basically look at me like, look, Dad, if we need a snack or a drink or something, we'll call you. Otherwise, piss off. I'm like, you're still my kids. You don't want to play with me? They've got each other. I'm kind of forgotten about. It's like, yeah, if we bang our heads or, we're crying because we did something stupid, then we'll ask you for help. Which, my boys, I got to tell you, happens every day. Get your hand out of your pants. Colin, get your hand out of your pants. Quit scratching your ass. He really doesn't like it when I tell him I don't know what it is. For the last month, he'll just randomly shove his hand down the backside of his pants and start scratching his ass. It's like, do you have a tick back there? What's going on?
Jeez.
The worst of it is when he'll occasionally do it down the front of his pants. It's like, oh God, I got a little Al Bundy on my fucking couch.
Jeez.
Yeah. But anywho, ladies and gentlemen, good to see you all again. And
it was definitely good doing this again, for sure.
Yes, indeed. And we got to touch base when we have the opportunity to chit-chat and talk over when exactly we're going to do the next show and what we're going to start with.
For sure.
And do you have an inclination or any direction you're leaning on as to the material we're going to touch on?
I wanted to do the oldest view next.
Okay. We'll do the alternate ending to the oldest view.
Yep.
If, folks, you're not familiar with our previous coverage of that, you can always click on the Cortex channel and head back through the archive of his videos, and you will see those recordings are available for your viewing pleasure to give a view and listen to see what we touched upon previously. And, not to be outdone, here is my son right here himself. Say hello. Wave to the camera. There we go. But this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is Joshua T. also known as ByronOfSidius, wishing you all adieu for now.
It was definitely a great time. Appreciate anybody who has showed up, and if not, there's always the replay gang. So,
very true.
But until then, guys, we will see you all in the next one. We don't have a set time yet, but we will eventually put one up.
Indeed. Cheers.
Other than that, we're out of here. Much love, guys. We're out.